So what would you do if I stood up here today and broke the story that 8 years ago, government scientists discovered the cure for cancer? Millions of people would be alleviated, would be prevented from suffering horrible diseases, death, loss of loved ones. But the secret was locked away and never used. What would you do if we found out that social scientists could unlock the keys of the human psyche and found a way to eliminate racism or homophobism or all of the ways that we bring out fear when we relate to each other? What would you do, say, if there was an economist, some government economist or someone working at a university who found the secret to stabilize the economy somehow without giving hundreds of billions of dollars to Wall Street? But again, we didn't use the secret. What would we do? Nadine would be out in the streets. Obviously, we'd be outraged. The truth, of course, is that we don't have the cure for cancer. We can't cure every disease. We haven't found ways yet to treat each other as brothers and sisters. But we do have the solutions to climate change. In my book, I talk about riding in a Tesla electric vehicle. Any folks here have heard about the Tesla? Okay, it's an all-electric vehicle, being manufactured in tiny quantities out in San Jose. And it goes 250 miles on a single electrical charge. It can go from 0 to 60 in less than 4 seconds. When you're test riding the car, and it's a high-end sports car, so you don't test drive the car, unless your wallet is a lot thicker than mine. But when you test ride the car, they play this little game with you where I was sitting in the passenger seat, and the guy who was driving it was going about 20 miles an hour on a straightaway. And he says, "Hey, do you mind turning on the radio?" So I said, "Sure." And as soon as I leaned forward to turn on the radio, I hit the gas, or hit the electric. And I couldn't get out of my seat. I literally couldn't get out of my seat. The G-forces were so strong that I was being pushed back in my seat. These are the technologies that we have available today. We can build plug-in hybrid vehicles that can get 100 miles per gallon. We can build a full fleet of electric vehicles that don't use a drop of gas, and then green the grid to use clean electricity. A report was released about 8 years ago, that said using the first generation of hybrid technologies, if we simply put that technology in every vehicle, every SUV, every sedan, every Mini Cooper, we would save more oil than we import from the entire Persian Gulf. More oil than we import from the entire Persian Gulf based on technology that we used 8 years ago. In my book, I quote an executive from Ford Motor Company. This was when Ford Motor Company was crushing all of the electric vehicles that it had on the road around the country. And this Ford Motor Company executive said, "Look, what you need to understand is that we could build an entire fleet of zero-emission vehicles if we wanted to. If we wanted to." Think about that statement. This was said in 2005, excuse me. If we wanted to. An executive from one of the largest auto manufacturers in the country, a company that produces millions of cars each year. If we wanted to fight climate change, they could build a fleet of zero-emission vehicles. If we wanted to end our oil dependence, we could build a fleet of zero-emission vehicles. If we wanted to reduce asthma attacks and heart attacks associated with smog and soot, if we wanted to rejuvenate our manufacturing sector, we could build a fleet of zero-emission vehicles. We do have the solutions in our grasp, available. They're practical, they're pragmatic, they're available today. We do have the solution to break our addiction to oil and coal. We do have the ability to fight climate change. We do have the ability to create a clean energy transition right now. But as Kenny said, and like oil change proves every day, the barriers to a clean energy transition aren't technical. We actually don't have to invent our way out of this problem. They're political. What we need is more political will. We need more political courage. We need the will, we need to generate the will to achieve the change that we have to achieve.